In the quiet medical ward of the Galactic Exchange Hospital, an alien nurse named Lyra began her morning shift. She was known for her calm nature, steady hands, and deep compassion. Her pale blue skin shimmered faintly under the sterile lights, and her large silver eyes reflected every emotion she felt. She had been trained on dozens of alien species across the universe, but she had never worked with a human before. Humans were still new to the interplanetary medical program. Their anatomy was strange, unpredictable, and often surprised alien doctors who were used to different biological systems. Lyra had read about them in her training modules, but reading and seeing were two very different things. Today, she would find out just how different they truly were. Her patient was a young man named Ethan Cole, a pilot who had been injured during a meteor storm near the outer rings of the Andara Belt. His ship had been recovered, and he was brought to the Galactic Exchange Hospital because it was the only one equipped to treat life forms from multiple species. Lyra had been assigned as his primary nurse. When she entered the recovery chamber, Ethan was still unconscious. His vitals were stable and his face looked peaceful beneath the oxygen mask. Lyra stood for a moment studying him with curiosity. Humans were so fragile-looking compared to her own species. Their skin lacked scales, their bones seemed lighter, and they had so many small features, eyelashes, fingernails, individual strands of hair. Everything about them seemed delicate yet oddly strong. She carefully checked the monitoring devices. His temperature was slightly high, but nothing dangerous. She noted it on her tablet. As she leaned closer to adjust a medical patch, Ethan stirred. His eyes fluttered open slowly. Lyra straightened, smiling politely. "You are safe, human Ethan Cole. You are in the Galactic Exchange Hospital. Do you understand me?" Ethan blinked in confusion. Where am I?" His voice was hoarse, dry. "Your ship was damaged in the meteor storm. You are recovering. I am Nurse Lyra. Please remain calm. You have nothing to fear." Ethan tried to sit up, but the motion made him wince. "How long have I been out?" 2 planetary cycles, Lyra replied softly. "Approximately 42 hours by your Earth time." He let out a low whistle. "Guess I needed the nap." His attempt at humor confused Lyra for a moment, but then she remembered humans often used jokes when they felt anxious. She ran a diagnostic scan with her medical device. Everything seemed normal except one reading. There was a small spike of heat and energy in the lower region of the human's body. It was unlike any medical signal she had seen before. Concerned, she checked her instruments again. The readings were correct. "Strange," she murmured. "What's strange?" Ethan asked, noticing her expression. "Your internal temperature pattern is unusual," Lyra said carefully, not wanting to alarm him. "I must verify that it is not a sign of infection or internal injury." Ethan shifted uneasily. "I feel fine, really. Just sore," but Lyra was a professional. She couldn't ignore the data. She called for a secondary scan and watched the holographic display form above the bed. The chart pulsed softly, showing a bright red area that shouldn't have been there. She frowned, tilting her head in confusion. "Humans have such unexpected anatomy," she whispered to herself. "Perhaps this is normal." Ethan looked a bit embarrassed, but Lyra's curiosity was purely medical. She had no concept of human modesty. For her species, the body was simply biology, something to be understood, not hidden. She stepped aside to check the medical manual. It was a digital archive containing thousands of records. She searched human body temperature clusters. The results were vague. Apparently, humans often experience temporary inflammation in certain areas due to stress, temperature, or other factors. Lyra said softly. "So this is not dangerous. Just unexpected." She turned back to Ethan, who was watching her cautiously. "There is no need for concern," she said with reassurance. "Your body simply reacts differently than the species I am familiar with." Ethan relaxed a little. "Yeah, we humans are full of surprises." Lyra gave a small smile. "Indeed, you are. Very unpredictable creatures." For the next hour, she carefully monitored him, taking notes about every observation. She wrote about the human body's temperature balance, the way it healed quickly, and how its heart rate changed when speaking. She was fascinated by every detail. At one point, Ethan began to talk about his life on Earth, how he had joined the pilot academy, the smell of the ocean near his hometown, the colors of the sunsets. Lyra listened quietly, her curiosity growing. She had seen dozens of planets, but never one described with such emotion. You humans attach great feeling to your memories, she noted. Is that common? Ethan laughed lightly. Yeah, I guess so. Memories are kind of what make us who we are. Lyra pondered that. Her people valued logic and order. Feelings were acknowledged but never allowed to lead decisions. Yet here was a species that seemed to live through emotion. She found that strangely beautiful. As the artificial sun in the medical ward dimmed to signal rest hours, Lyra adjusted the bed's comfort field and dimmed the lights around Ethan's chamber. Before leaving, she looked at him once more. This fragile being from a faraway planet, full of strange biology and even stranger warmth. She recorded her final note for the day. Patient recovering well. Human anatomy shows unpredictable patterns but no immediate threat detected. Emotional responses unusually strong, possibly aiding recovery. Observation. Humans are far more complex than they appear. She closed her report and left the room, unaware that this was only the beginning of a connection that would challenge everything she thought she knew about life, medicine, and the meaning of understanding another species. The next morning, Lyra arrived at the medical ward earlier than usual. The corridors were quiet, filled with a faint hum from the machines that kept hundreds of patients stable. Outside the large glass panels, the planet's twin suns were rising, one golden, one pale blue. The light spilled softly into the hall, painting the walls in two colors. Lyra liked this hour best. It was peaceful, and she could gather her thoughts before the day began. When she entered Ethan's chamber, she found him awake, sitting upright and trying to adjust the blanket on his own. His expression was determined but clumsy. You should rest, Lyra said, stepping inside. Your muscles have not fully recovered. Ethan looked up and smiled faintly. Morning, Nurse Lyra, I couldn't just lie here all day. I'm not used to sitting still. She tilted her head in curiosity. Most patients prefer rest. Yeah, but I've been a pilot since I was 17. I'm more comfortable moving than sitting. Lyra walked closer and checked the readings on the screen beside him. His oxygen level had improved and his pulse was steady. His body was healing faster than expected. Your recovery is progressing well, she said. Human biology seems resilient, Ethan chuckled. We've had to be tough. Earth isn't exactly a gentle place. That sparked Lyra's curiosity again. Tell me about it, she said softly. Your planet. Ethan leaned back against the headrest. Earth's beautiful, well, most of it. We've got oceans, forests, mountains, deserts. Some places are calm and quiet. Others are full of noise and light. It's not perfect, but it's home. Lyra listened carefully, her silvery eyes fixed on him. The idea of a single planet having so many landscapes fascinated her. Her own world, Thalora, was mostly made of water and glowing plants. There were no deserts, no mountains. And you left such a place to travel the stars? She asked. He nodded. I guess I wanted to see what else was out there. I thought maybe I'd find something greater, something new. Lyra smiled faintly. And instead you found the inside of a hospital. Ethan laughed, a warm, genuine sound that filled the room. Yeah, I guess that's how my adventure turned out. For a few moments, silence settled between them. The soft hum of medical machines filled the air. Then Ethan looked at her curiously. What about you, Lyra? Why did you become a nurse? Her long fingers paused on the tablet she was holding. She rarely talked about herself. On Thalora, life is precious, she said finally. When I was young, there was a sickness that spread through our colony. Many were lost. The nurses and doctors worked day and night, and because of them, my family survived. I decided then that I wanted to do the same, to heal, to help. Ethan's eyes softened. That's pretty noble. Lyra looked away modestly. It is simply duty. Every life matters, but deep inside she knew it was more than duty. She had always felt something deeper when she saw pain, an urge to protect, to fix, to comfort. Her people called it Sarin, the light of compassion. She wondered if humans had a word for it too. The rest of the morning passed quietly. Lyra changed Ethan's bandages, adjusted his nutrient feed, and taught him how to use the floating assistance pad so he could move short distances. She observed that humans recovered not only with medicine, but also with conversation and laughter. Every time Ethan smiled, his vital signs improved. She began to make notes about it. Observation. Human emotional state directly affects physical healing. Positive emotions accelerate recovery. Fascinating biological and psychological connection. Later that day, a senior physician, Dr. Corvin, entered the chamber. He was a tall being with translucent skin and glowing veins. "Nurse Lyra," he said in his deep voice. "How is the human progressing?" Lyra handed him her report. His condition improves rapidly. However, his internal temperature fluctuations remain unusual. Corvin glanced at the report. "Unusual, but stable. Continue monitoring. Humans are unpredictable creatures. Their bodies adapt in ways we do not fully understand." Ethan gave a small grin. "You make us sound like a science project." Corvin looked at him with an expression that might have been amusement or confusion. "You are, in a sense, a living experiment in interspecies medicine." After the doctor left, Ethan looked at Lyra. "Do all your superiors talk like that?" Lyra allowed herself a small laugh. "He means no disrespect. He sees everything as data." Ethan shook his head. "Guess I'm more than just data to me." Over the next few days, Lyra noticed that Ethan was getting stronger. He began to walk short distances with help. Sometimes he'd stop near the viewing window and gaze at the stars outside. She often found herself standing beside him, quietly admiring the same view. "You know," Ethan said one evening, "out there everything looks peaceful, but up close it's chaos. Asteroids, storms, gravity pulling everything apart." Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "That is also true for life," she said. "From a distance it seems calm, but when you live it, it is filled with storms." Ethan smiled softly. "You're wiser than most humans I know." She looked down shyly. Compliments were not common among her kind. "Thank you," she said. As the lights dimmed for rest time, Ethan lay back in his bed. "Hey, Lyra," he said quietly. "Yes?" "I just wanted to say, thanks for taking care of me, for talking to me like a person, not just a patient." Her heart warmed. "It is my duty," she said automatically. But after a pause, she added in a softer voice, "And also my choice." That night, as Lyra completed her report, she wrote something she had never written before. Observation. Human Ethan Cole displays gratitude frequently. Gratitude may function as emotional energy. Perhaps one reason humans survive so many hardships. I find this quality inspiring. As she finished her shift, she looked back at his chamber through the glass window. The human was already asleep, breathing softly under the dim light. For the first time in her career, Lyra felt something new. A connection that went beyond medicine or biology. She did not yet understand it, but she knew this assignment would change her forever. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's condition continued to improve. The once pale pilot now walked the medical corridors with steady steps, supported only by a light stabilizing band around his chest. His laughter echoed through the sterile halls, bringing warmth to the cold environment. Most patients and even the other nurses had started to notice how different Lyra seemed when she was near him. She smiled more, spoke more softly, and lingered longer than she did with any other patient. But for Lyra, it wasn't just about care, it was about curiosity and something deeper she couldn't name. Humans fascinated her, the way they thought, the way they expressed emotion, the way they found humor even in pain. It was something she had never experienced before. That morning, Lyra entered Ethan's chamber with her usual calm expression. "Good morning, Pilot Cole," she said. "Morning, Lyra," Ethan replied cheerfully, fastening the simple gray jacket provided by the hospital. "You know, you don't have to call me Pilot. Just Ethan is fine." She tilted her head, considering. "It is a title of respect." "I get that," he said with a grin. "But friends don't use titles." Lyra blinked. "Friends?" "Yes," Ethan said simply. "You've taken care of me, talked to me, listened to me when I was scared. I'd call that friendship." Lyra's eyes softened. "On my planet, friendship is rare. We do not bond quickly, but I suppose I would consider you a friend as well." The moment was quiet, filled with unspoken understanding. Outside, one of the twin suns rose higher, its light spilling into the room like gold dust. Later that day, Ethan was cleared to join the rehabilitation area, a large open space with transparent walls showing the planet's sky. Strange plants glowed softly around the edges, releasing a calming mist that helped patients recover faster. Lyra guided him to a seat. "This place is incredible," Ethan said, looking around. "It's like a garden from another world." "It is," Lyra replied gently. "The air here contains natural healers from Thaler and Flora. Breathing it strengthens the body." He inhaled deeply and laughed. Smells better than the air back home. She gave a small smile. You often use humor when you are happy. And when I'm nervous too, he admitted. It helps. Lyra took out her medical tablet. Perhaps that is why humans recover so quickly. You laugh through pain. Ethan thought about it. Maybe, but sometimes laughter is just how we pretend everything's okay. Her gaze lingered on him, full of empathy. Pretending can still give hope, she said softly. Sometimes hope heals more than medicine. They spent most of the day doing exercises and talking. Ethan shared stories from his missions. Narrow escapes from space storms, engine failures, and strange worlds he had visited. Lyra listened carefully, fascinated by the human's courage. At one point, Ethan described a planet covered entirely in ice. It was cold, dark, and dangerous, he said. But the sky was filled with green lights that danced all night. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, imagining it. Your species seems to find beauty in everything, even danger. Ethan shrugged. Maybe that's what keeps us going. That evening, when most patients were resting, Lyra stayed behind in the ward, reviewing her notes. Her data on humans was unlike anything the hospital had recorded before. She had written pages about emotion, memory, laughter, and resilience. But one sentence stood out to her. Humans are healed as much by connection as by medicine. She stared at those words, realizing how true they were. Ethan had improved faster than any recorded case, not only because of medical treatment but because of their bond. Her thoughts were interrupted when the lights flickered suddenly. The hum of machines stuttered. An alarm sounded from the central console. Lyra rushed to the panel. A message flashed in bright red. Solar storm incoming. Shield protocol activated. Moments later, the entire building trembled slightly. Outside the windows, streaks of brilliant orange light flashed across the sky. The twin suns had erupted, sending waves of energy toward the planet. Ethan appeared at the doorway, holding onto the wall for balance. What's happening? Solar storm, Lyra said quickly. You must return to your chamber. The shields will protect us, but power may fluctuate. Ethan nodded, but the tremors made it hard to move. Lyra grabbed his arm and helped him back. The lights dimmed and glowed again. Machines beeped erratically. One of the medical pods in the next room began to lose power. Lyra's instincts took over. She moved swiftly, recalibrating systems, stabilizing circuits, and transferring energy from backup cells. Ethan, despite being a patient, assisted her, holding cables and reading indicators as she directed him. Reroute energy to section D4, she called out. Got it. Ethan shouted back. Sparks flickered briefly, but then the light steadied. The alarm went silent. When everything finally calmed, Lyra let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Ethan leaned against the wall, exhausted but smiling. Well, that was exciting. You should not have helped, Lyra said, though her tone was gentle. You are still recovering. Couldn't just sit and watch you do all the work, Ethan said. Besides, I used to fix engines. Electricity doesn't scare me. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then quietly she said, You are brave. He smiled. Guess that's one of our human flaws. Or strengths, she replied softly. When the emergency was over, Lyra escorted him back to his bed. The night outside the hospital was glowing faintly with the remnants of the storm, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Ethan sat quietly, looking out the window. Your world is beautiful, he said. Even when it's dangerous, Lyra followed his gaze. It reminds me of you humans, she said. Fragile, yet always shining through chaos. He turned to her, his eyes calm but thoughtful. You really think that? I do, she said with honesty. I think your species has something the rest of us lost long ago. A kind of inner fire that keeps you alive no matter what happens. Ethan smiled faintly. If that's true, maybe that fire was meant to be shared. Her eyes softened. Perhaps that is why you came here, to remind us of it. That night, when Lyra returned to her quarters, she couldn't sleep. The day's events kept replaying in her mind. The storm, the teamwork, the look in Ethan's eyes when they talked. She had treated thousands of patients before, but none had affected her like this. She stood by her window, staring at the stars. Somewhere deep inside, she felt something new. A warmth that wasn't from her planet's suns. It was softer, quieter, but powerful. She didn't yet have a name for it, but she knew it was something worth understanding. And as the stars shimmered above the hospital, Nurse Lyra made a silent promise to herself. She would learn everything there was to know about the human heart, not just its biology but its light. The solar storm had passed, but its mark remained on the planet. The twin suns now rose slower, and the sky held faint ripples of light like soft scars across the morning. The Galactic Exchange Hospital buzzed with quiet activity. Engineers worked on repairing damaged systems and nurses double-checked every patient's condition. Lyra moved calmly through the hallways, her long steps silent and precise. She had worked through the night, ensuring every patient was stable after the power failure. Her body was tired, but her mind was restless. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face during the storm. Calm, brave, willing to help even when weak. Humans truly were unpredictable. When she entered Ethan's room, he was sitting by the wide glass window again, staring at the alien sky. The faint lights from the storm still danced in the distance. "You should be resting," she said softly. He looked back and smiled. "Morning, Lyra, I couldn't sleep. The view's too beautiful to waste." Lyra came closer, her pale blue skin glowing faintly under the morning light. "You risked your health during the storm." "It was reckless," Ethan laughed lightly. "I guess that's part of being human. We don't always think before helping." She tilted her head. "You call it bravery. I call it chaos." "Maybe a bit of both," he said with a grin. Lyra's lips curved slightly, something close to a smile. "Perhaps that is why your kind survives. You find order inside chaos," Ethan turned serious. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have survived at all. You've been there every single day. I owe you more than I can say." "You owe me nothing," she replied firmly. "It is my duty as a healer." But Ethan shook his head. "No, it's more than duty. You actually care." Lyra was silent for a moment. She didn't deny it. Somewhere along the way, her sense of duty had changed. What began as curiosity had turned into connection. She didn't know how to explain it, but when Ethan smiled, something inside her shifted, something warm and strange, something she had never felt before. To distract herself, she picked up her tablet and reviewed his vitals. "Your heart rate is slightly elevated," she noted. "Maybe it's the fresh air," he joked. She glanced at him with a faint sparkle in her eyes. "Or the side effect of excessive talking." Ethan laughed again, and Lyra's chest tightened with a quiet warmth she didn't understand. After his checkup, they walked slowly through the recovery garden outside the ward. It was the first time Ethan had been allowed beyond the medical area. The air was cool and fragrant with glowing pollen. Strange bird-like creatures floated above the flower beds, singing in musical tones. "This place looks like a dream," Ethan said softly. "You live among beauty every day, Lyra." "It is normal to me," she replied. "Sometimes I forget to notice it." "That's the thing about beauty," he said, looking up at the soft purple sky. "You stop seeing it when it's always there." Lyra considered his words. "On your planet, do you have gardens like this?" "Not like this," he said with a small laugh. "Our plants don't glow and our skies aren't violet. But we have forests, rivers, and stars that look close enough to touch." She closed her eyes briefly, imagining Earth as he described it. "Perhaps one day I would like to see it." Ethan turned to her. "You'd love it. The air smells like rain and the oceans look endless." For a moment they stood silently side by side. Around them the glowing plants swayed gently in the breeze. It was peaceful. So peaceful that Lyra almost forgot they were from two different worlds. Suddenly her communicator beeped sharply. She tapped it and listened. A mechanical voice said, "Attention. Unexpected viral anomaly detected in human patient sector. All medical staff report immediately." Lyra's calm expression vanished. "We must go," she said quickly. When they reached the main lab, the atmosphere was tense. Several doctors stood around a holographic display showing strange red particles floating in a digital image of human cells. Dr. Corvin turned to Lyra as she entered. "Nurse, your patient is the only human in this facility. We detected a minor anomaly in his latest sample. It may be a reaction between his biology and our environment." Lyra frowned. "He shows no symptoms." "Not yet," Corvin replied. "But it could spread fast if it mutates." Ethan stood nearby, overhearing everything. "So I'm the source of the problem?" he asked quietly. "No," Lyra said firmly, stepping closer. "You are simply reacting to conditions your body isn't used to." "We will find a cure," Dr. Corvin nodded. "Prepare containment protocols just in case. We can't risk infection." Lyra felt a wave of determination rise in her chest. She refused to let fear separate them. She spent hours analyzing samples, scanning data, and comparing human biology with Thalaran elements. Ethan watched her through the glass wall of the lab. Even from there, he could see her focus, her precision, and her worry. After many hours, she finally approached him again. "It is not dangerous," she said with relief. "Your immune system is simply adapting faster than expected." It caused a false reading. Ethan exhaled heavily. "So I'm not contagious." She smiled softly. "No, just extraordinary," he laughed. "Guess I'll take that as a compliment." The crisis passed, but the day had left them both quiet. Later that night, when the hospital settled into calm again, Ethan sat on his bed staring out the window. Lyra stood beside him, her hands folded. "Were you afraid?" he asked suddenly. She hesitated. "I was concerned." "That's a polite way of saying scared," Ethan teased gently. Lyra gave a small laugh. "Perhaps. It is not easy to watch someone you care for be in danger." Ethan turned to look at her. "You really mean that?" Her voice softened. "I do. You are not just another patient to me, Ethan. You have taught me things that no medical data could." He smiled faintly. "Like what?" "That emotion is not weakness," she said. "That laughter can heal. That kindness is stronger than fear." He looked at her for a long time, searching for the right words. "And you've taught me something too. What is that?" she asked quietly. "That compassion isn't human or alien, it's just life. We both have it." Lyra's eyes shimmered faintly, reflecting the light from the twin moons outside. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was full of meaning, something more powerful than words. Before leaving, she placed her hand gently over his. "Rest well, Ethan," she said softly. "You have done enough saving for one lifetime." He smiled sleepily. "Only because I had a good nurse." As the lights dimmed and the stars appeared outside, Lyra walked back to her quarters. The sky still carried traces of the solar storm, streaks of light drifting like memories. She paused and looked up, realizing something she hadn't before. Maybe the universe had brought Ethan there for a reason. Maybe their meeting wasn't an accident at all, and somewhere deep in her heart, the alien nurse who had once lived only for duty began to feel something truly human: hope. Weeks passed quietly at the Galactic Exchange Hospital. The solar storm was now only a story told among the staff, and most systems were fully restored. Life returned to its normal rhythm. Yet for Lyra, nothing felt quite the same anymore. She still performed her duties with care and precision, but her thoughts often drifted toward the human pilot who had changed her understanding of life and compassion. Ethan's recovery was nearly complete. The doctors said he could leave within a few days and return to the Earth Federation base on the nearby moon. The news brought mixed feelings. He was eager to fly again, to see his home planet, but a part of him didn't want to leave the world that had shown him kindness in the most unexpected place. Lyra entered his chamber one morning to find him standing near the window again, looking out at the endless stars. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "Morning, Lyra." "Good morning, Ethan," she replied softly. "Your final medical report is complete. You are ready for departure." He gave a slow nod, smiling but not with his usual cheer. "So this is it, huh?" She tilted her head slightly. "You sound unhappy?" Ethan sighed. "It's strange. I've been dreaming of going home for weeks, but now that I can, it doesn't feel the way I thought it would." "Change often feels that way," Lyra said. "It brings both peace and pain." He looked at her, studying her calm expression. "You always know the right thing to say." She shook her head lightly. "I only speak what I observe. You humans make everything sound more beautiful than it is." Ethan chuckled. "That's because we feel everything too much." Lyra smiled faintly. "Perhaps that is your greatest strength." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the silver rings of the planet rotate slowly outside the window. The room felt heavy with unspoken words. After a while, Ethan said, "I wish I could thank you properly, Lyra. You didn't just heal my body. You made me feel human again. Out here, surrounded by machines and aliens, I thought I'd lose myself. But you reminded me who I was." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "And you reminded me what it means to care beyond duty." Ethan's ship was scheduled to depart the next day. The hospital arranged a small farewell gathering in the docking bay, a quiet ceremony to honor their first successful long-term treatment of a human. Lyra stood among the staff, her uniform crisp and her face composed. Yet inside her heart was heavy. When Ethan entered the bay, dressed in a dark pilot's uniform, he looked stronger, healthier, and more alive than ever. The room buzzed with admiration from other species. Dr. Corvin congratulated him formally, saying, "Your resilience is remarkable, Pilot Cole. You have expanded our understanding of human biology." Ethan smiled politely. "Glad I could help science move forward." Then his eyes found Lyra across the room. The crowd around them faded in that instant. He walked over slowly, stopping just a step away from her. "So," he said, "this is goodbye." "For now," Lyra replied, her voice calm but soft. "Your presence has been a valuable experience for us all." Ethan laughed quietly. "You make it sound like I was an experiment." She met his gaze. "Perhaps, but one that taught me more than I expected." He hesitated for a moment, then reached out his hand. "I know handshakes aren't really your thing, but it's what we do on Earth when we say goodbye." Lyra looked at his hand curiously before gently placing hers in his. Her skin was cool and smooth, faintly glowing under the light. Then, "Goodbye, Ethan," she said. "May your path be safe." "Goodbye, Lyra," he said softly. "And thank you for everything." He held her hand for a second longer before turning toward the ship. As he walked away, Lyra felt something in her chest tighten. She wanted to say more, to tell him that he had changed her, that his laughter and courage had left a mark she would never forget, but her voice refused to come out. When the ship finally lifted off, its engines glowed softly against the violet sky. The sound faded slowly, leaving only silence. Lyra stood still long after the others had left the docking bay. Through the glass wall, she watched the stars until the ship disappeared into the distance. That night she couldn't sleep. Her quarters were filled with the faint hum of machines, but her mind was elsewhere, on the stories Ethan had told her about Earth, the color of its oceans, the warmth of its people, and the strange beauty of human emotion. She sat by her desk and opened her medical journal one last time. Her final entry read, "Final report. Human patient Ethan Cole, fully recovered. Biological recovery, excellent. Psychological adaptation, remarkable. Personal observation. The human capacity for emotion is not a weakness but a form of strength. It inspires growth in others. I have learned that healing is not only the repair of the body, but also the connection between hearts." Lyra stared at the words for a long time before saving the report. Then she closed her eyes, letting the quiet hum of the hospital surround her. She felt something gentle within her, something new, fragile yet powerful. It wasn't sadness exactly, but a feeling she couldn't name. In the following weeks, life continued as usual. New patients arrived, and Lyra returned to her duties. Yet every time she passed the viewing deck, she found herself looking at the stars. Sometimes she imagined Ethan's ship out there somewhere, flying through the dark sky with the same courage and kindness that had touched her so deeply. One evening, as she completed her shift, a small communication light blinked on her desk. It was an incoming message from an external human frequency. Her heart quickened as she opened it. On the screen appeared Ethan's familiar smile. "Hey, Lyra," his recorded voice said. "I made it back to the base safely. The doctors here are amazed at how fast I recovered. I told them it wasn't just the medicine, it was the nurse who believed in me. Thank you for everything. Maybe one day when Earth and Thalera have better travel routes, you'll visit. I'll show you what a real sunset looks like." Lyra's lips curved into a slow, warm smile. "A real sunset," she repeated softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked out of the window once more, where the twin suns were beginning to set beyond the horizon. Their light blended into gold and silver, two colors from two worlds, shining together. In that moment, Lyra understood something profound. The universe was vast, filled with different species, planets, and systems. but kindness was the same everywhere. Connection was universal. And as the stars came out one by one, she whispered to herself, "Maybe someday our worlds will meet again." Her reflection shimmered against the glass, framed by the light of the galaxies beyond. The alien nurse, who once believed only in logic and duty, now carried a new understanding within her heart. A human spark, gentle and bright. The universe had changed her forever.